our workplace can either support us or hold us back. And, we spend a lot of time at work and in the office, especially if you work the typical 9-to-5 job. So we want to make sure that we start shifting our perspective of our work and our work environment towards one of joy and gratitude.
Welcome to Spark Joy, the podcast dedicated to celebrating the KonMari Method and the transformative power of surrounding yourself with joy and letting go of all the rest. With your hosts and certified KonMari consultants, Kristen Ivy and Karen Sochi. And now, here's the show.
Joy at work. Yes, it is possible. Today's guest is certified KonMari consultant, Christina Jurges. Christina is taking the KonMari Method to the corporate world by coaching businesses and professionals on how to create room to grow. She helps you create an environment that fosters personal and professional development and growth by teaching you how to remove mental and physical obstacles. She helps her clients increase their creativity, focus, and motivation, and live their best lives. Welcome to Spark Joy, Christina.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Welcome to Spark Joy, Christina.
Amazing.
So when we have fellow certified KonMari consultants on Spark Joy, we always start with a question that everyone always wants to know about. How did you get introduced to KonMari and what took you down the path to becoming a tidying professional?
So basically, I've always been a fan of finding, new ways to be efficient and only, carry with me, quote unquote, what I really need physically and mentally. And I came across the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And I really liked the simplicity of it and the focus on the positive of the method. I tried the method myself. And when I saw how much physical and mental space it created in my life, I really wanted to share this experience with as many people as possible. So that's why I decided to get certified and start coaching people professionally, using the principles of this method.
Were you doing some kind of similar work before, or were you in a completely different profession or area?
So I'm working in a corporate environment. I'm a manager, but I see that the KonMari method is not only an organizing method for, your home. It translates to so many other aspects of our lives, which I find is the most fascinating thing about this method. And I found so many links between, the benefits of the method and the benefits of the corporate world that, I was able to create the link. So now I have pretty much best of both worlds.
Yeah, I love that you've transitioned to helping employees benefit from KonMari by applying the method to the work environment. Love to hear more about what that's been like for you and how you've helped people create that joy at work.
So basically, as I said, as someone who's, balancing a full-time corporate career in management and my, business as a KonMari consultant, I completely understand the need for a balanced day-to-day life for many people. And I think that especially professionals in the corporate environment tend to sometimes carry their work everywhere they go. That means that, we have a true challenge here to get back to a relationship with your job that is healthy and joyful. And in general, I found that, once I started living by the principles of the method, it really impacted my own life and career in such a positive way. Meaning, once I started to remove obstacles that were holding me back, I developed sharper focus, increased creativity, the ability to find solutions faster, and, definitely continuous motivation overall in my work. The question is not if people want these things as well. I think what is missing a lot of times in the workplace is, that clear space without obstacles, which I always call the room to grow, which I want to help people to create for themselves, because this is where we can grow. So my passion is to help people create that room, using the principles that I learned by the KonMari method.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept, this idea of a room to grow at work. or is it room to grow or a room to grow? Because it sounds like you're talking about giving yourself the space, but maybe you mean physically having a place where ideas are more, we talk a lot about it in the KonMari Corporation itself. They really sit down as a team and they do team thinking about the projects that they take on and how they might spark joy for them as a team. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've discovered about some of the obstacles that people find at work that keep them from being creative and really feeling like they have that room to grow?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in your own life too, you not only have the experience of working with clients as a KonMari consultant, but you also have a personal experience working in the corporate world.
Absolutely. So I think it comes down to the fact that our workplace can either support us or hold us back. And, we spend a lot of time at work and in the office, especially if you work the typical 9-to-5 job. So we want to make sure that we start shifting our perspective of our work and our work environment towards one of joy and gratitude. The most difficult part of this is that we often feel, overwhelmed and quite literally cluttered at work with all the things we have to do in our to-do lists and, our coworkers who want something from us, the tasks that we give ourselves. So I think it's important to coach people on how to not only remove the physical clutter from that environment, but also how to declutter our minds. And I think that the KonMari method helps us become, a lot more efficient and creative and productive and overall happier, in what we do. It really helps us create the space that we need to grow professionally and as a person. So it's a physical space that we create that supports us in, in who we want to be and how we want to live our day-to-day life. And also creating the mental space and the perspective on what's joyful for us. So, when we say space, it's really both of them, the physical environment we move in, but also our mental environment, our focus and our perspective on, on what we do.
I think it's really interesting that you've now seen clutter and its impact from two different lenses. So you've helped clients declutter at home, and then you've also translated this whole idea of choosing joy to the workplace. Can you give us some idea if there's a correlation between clutter at home and clutter at work? Do you find that clients who have clutter at home also have a clutter at work or vice versa? Is there some kind of connection between the two?
I think that it's really a question of perspective and also, following through with the method 100%. Because KonMari it's basically also a lifestyle, which means that we generally want to move in spaces that energize us and support us and help us become our best selves. So I think that if someone has successfully applied the method to their home, the next logical step for me is to ask ourselves, what other environments can I influence and transform that maybe right now don't exactly spark joy for me? And the office space, whether it be a home office or an office in a company, is definitely worth decluttering, considering how much time we spend daily in that environment. So it's really important to shift your perspective and understand that, we shouldn't neglect neither one of these spaces. For a lot of people, our workspace can become what Marie Kondo calls the power spot, which sometimes is a corner or a spot in your home, which you can go to that energizes you and that gives you tranquility and focus. And, why not make our office that power spot? Because a clear space helps you create a clear mind. And that's something very important in the workplace.
The question, does it spark joy, is a simple one, but not so easy to execute alone. Extend your tidying experience by joining the Spark Joy Club, our online community filled with our clients, fellow listeners, and KonMari enthusiasts ready to support your journey.
If you find yourself buried under clothing, stuck on storage, or pointing fingers at untidy housemates or family members, we want to help you finish your tidying journey once and for all.
Support the show at the Joy Riser level and receive access to our exclusive virtual community, as well as the Tidy Home Joy Journal, your #1 tidying companion.
Visit sparkjoypodcast.com and click on Join the Club to get started. And now back to the show. I really like your perspective on this. And I think that, I know certainly for myself, and I think for a lot of people who are entrepreneurial or who decide to go, out on their own, being dissatisfied with kind of a traditional office setting was really a prime motivator. And for me, I know that it was really years in the making, years of being really not very happy at work, and essentially living this life where it's like my 9 to 5 or my 9 to 9 sometimes was really just kind of the life I had to live. Whereas everything that was around that was like really my life, my evenings and my weekends and vacation, that was like my real life. And so that just felt really unsatisfactory to me. And so it was so important for me to find something like KonMari that I could direct my energy and passion into. A lot of people, I think, are in that same situation and they don't necessarily know what to do next. I was in, the healthcare environment for many years, and it was really hard to find something outside of that arena that worked for me. A lot of the skills that I learned in my previous profession have really helped me in this work, but I didn't realize that would be true. And looking back, I'm wondering if I could have applied some other kinds of techniques to have found what I really wanted to do, whether that meant going out on my own, or maybe it was just a career move in the same industry. Do you have any suggestions for people who are really struggling with what their next career life will look like?
Right. So, that's a very big question, but I think the most important thing is to understand, what kind of environment inspires you and sparks joy,
Right.
because that is where you will be the happiest and the most productive. When we start the KonMari process in our homes, we often start by doing, a vision exercise, asking ourselves, how would we envision our ideal home? What kind of things do we want to see when we enter our front door? What kind of things do we not want to see? How do we want to spend our time? What do we want to do in our space? And I think that we could do the same and try to think of what our ideal work environment would look like, and really create a vision of where we see ourselves and doing what and how. And I think this would be definitely the first step to, sit down and think about what an ideal work environment would look like for us.
When taking KonMari to work, do you feel like there are any aspects of the method that you've had to tweak, or any that do or do not complement the workspace environment?
So, of course, there's some of the KonMari categories that don't necessarily apply as much in the office space. For example, clothes, but definitely books, paper, and common note categories are, a huge element of the office environment. Paper clutter is definitely a big issue in the workplace, and we can easily use the KonMari paper filing system to help with that, meaning to sort our paper in piles of items that we can discard, the second one for items that we keep for a while, and the third one for, documents that we need to keep forever. However, I noticed that in general, in the office space, we should try to digitize our paper files as much as possible in order to avoid cluttering our desks and drawers. So that would be definitely an important part. Remember that your desk is not a museum. So I would say to try to only display a few select items that really spark joy for you instead of hoarding a huge amount. When it comes to office supplies, try to, use your favorite pen and your favorite notepad instead of having a lot of different supplies that probably don't work anymore. Another practical tip would be to apply the bento box organizing style for your drawers. Smaller boxes and smaller containers, so everything has their place and nothing's overflowing and nothing's moving when you, open and close the drawers. And most importantly, I think that when someone declutters and organizes their workspace, there is a huge potential to inspire your coworkers, and possibly start a decluttering trend in your company. And when everybody creates physical room and headspace, then I think we could even eventually transform, the whole energy of the company, the whole company culture to one that fosters bigger creativity and more space to breathe, and generally a happier place for people.
Oh, those are some great tips for bringing a little bit of KonMari into the workplace. But of course, as we ask all of our KonMari Consultant guests, what is your favorite tidying tip?
So my favorite tidying tip is a piece of advice, which is be the gatekeeper of your own space. I think that we all need to become more selective when it comes to the question what we allow in our environment. And when I say environment, I mean physical and mental environment. So make sure that whatever enters your space supports you in being and becoming the joyful person that, you deserve to be.
That's a great one. And we also want to know what's sparking the most joy for you at this moment in your life.
Definitely being able to coach people, to help them live a life that they actually love, and, to see what, this coaching and the method can do for people's professional and personal development. It's really amazing, how much of a difference a few small changes and the right perspective can make.
That's awesome. So any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
To always leave room to grow. Because I think as humans, we sometimes assume that, as soon as there's a free spot or an empty space, that we feel the need to fill it. But the beauty sometimes lies in just leaving a space empty and clear. And again, I'm talking about physical, but also mental space. So leave room to grow because you can't grow if you don't leave room.
Thank you, Christina, for bringing so much joy to this idea of KonMariing our workspace and understanding how clutter can impact not only our homes, but also our workspace.
Thank you, Christina.
To connect with Christina, visit organizedbychristina.com on Facebook.
If you're excited about embarking on your own personal KonMari journey, but unsure where or how to start, Christina is offering SparkJoy listeners a free PDF kit which includes a vision sheet template and a few exercises to give you the best start in creating your clutter-free life of your dreams. You can download your kit at organizedbychristina.com/freebies.
So now we want to hear from you. Tell us your burning tidying questions or share stories about how KonMari has impacted your life.
Head over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe and review the show, which helps us reach others along their tidying journeys.
To extend your tidying experience, you can join the SparkJoy Club.
Visit sparkjoypodcast.com and click Join the Club to become a member of the SparkJoy community or join us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Thanks for tuning in, and we hope your day sparks joy.
Thank you for listening to Spark Joy with your hosts Kristen Ivy of For the Love of Tidy in Chicago and Karen Sochi of The Serene Home in New York City. Spark Joy, the podcast, is not endorsed by or affiliated with KonMari Media, Inc. The opinions expressed on this episode represent the views of the co-hosts and guests alone and do not represent the corporate position of KonMari Media, Inc. or the KonMari Consultant community.